Aston Villa qualified for the Champions League, won the Europa League, and developed Morgan Rogers into one of the most valuable young players in England. Their reward this summer was watching Rogers join Chelsea for £117 million. Yuri Tielemans moved to Manchester United, and Ezri Konsa leave for Arsenal in a deal worth £51 million plus add-ons. Newcastle have said goodbye to Anthony Gordon, Sandro Tonali, and Bruno Guimaraes, despite having owners whose wealth makes most Premier League owners look as if they are waiting for payday. Individual transfers have football reasons, and Rogers arrived for an initial fee of around $7 million, so accepting $117 million can be sensible. Seeing ambitious clubs sell important players to richer rivals still raises an uncomfortable question. Are football's new financial rules protecting the biggest clubs from the teams trying to catch them? Simon Jordan has called the system structurally unfair, while Coventry owner Doug King described the Premier League as becoming a closed shop. Their financial question is excellent. If Manchester United earn twice as much as Aston Villa, should United automatically be allowed to carry twice as much squad cost? A percentage of revenue rule moves strongly in that direction. United's commercial strength and decades of global visibility create a larger allowance before anybody asks whether the current team is well run. Villa can have a brilliant season and still begin the next calculation behind a club they finished above. Newcastle's wealthy ownership remains limited by revenue the club can recognize because money in an owner's bank account is not football revenue. That protects clubs from limitless spending and removes the quickest method challengers once used to break the hierarchy. Chelsea and Manchester City accelerated their rise during a different regulatory era. A club attempting the same climb now encounters rules designed partly in response to what those owners did. It is difficult to declare the latter unsafe after the people above have already used it. The Premier League's new system is called the Squad Cost Ratio, or SCR, and it replaced the old profitability and sustainability rules from the beginning of the 2026-27 season. PSR asked how much a club had lost across a rolling 3-year period, with deductions for certain forms of investment. SCR looks more directly at the cost of the team during each season. Player and head coach wages are included, together with agents' fees and the amortisation or impairment of transfer fees. If a club signs a player for £60 million on a 5-year contract, the basic annual amortization charge is $12 million before wages and agent costs enter the calculation. The Premier League generally limits those squad costs to 85% of football-related revenue, plus the club's net profit or loss from player sales. Football revenue includes central distributions, matchday and commercial income, cup revenue, and eligible earnings from activities such as events at a club-owned stadium. The league also created a multi-year allowance of 30 percentage points that can be used to exceed the normal ceiling. Using it can attract a levy, and once the allowance is exhausted, a club must return to 85% or risk a sporting sanction. This is more flexible than saying every club receives one fixed number, but the arithmetic still rewards size. Imagine one club has £700 million of relevant revenue and another has $350 million. At 85%, their basic squad cost limits would be $595 million and $297.5 million. The first club does not merely have more cash. The rules authorize almost £300 million more annual squad cost. European competition introduces a second calculation. UEFA's permanent squad cost ceiling is 70%, and Premier League clubs competing in UEFA tournaments must satisfy that tighter rule. 70% of $700 million is $490 million, which still exceeds 85% of $350 million by $192.5 million. The challenger receives a more generous percentage for missing Europe and can still be allowed to spend much less in pounds. That is the part supporters feel when a wealthy owner cannot fund another major signing. The spreadsheet is not asking how rich the owner is or how desperately the manager needs a midfielder. It is asking how much revenue the football business has earned and how much player sale profit can be added. Player sales perform two jobs for a club near the limit. They bring in cash, sometimes across installments, and can create accounting profit that expands the SCR denominator. Morgan Rogers is an extreme example. Villa acquired him cheaply and placed him on a long contract, leaving a book value tiny beside a £117 million sale. Villa can recognize an enormous profit, even if Chelsea pay across several years, then sign replacements whose fees are amortized over new contracts. One major sale can create room for several annual amortization charges. The sporting cost arrives first. Rodgers was one of the players Villa needed to keep qualifying for Europe, whose recurring income would have grown the revenue base. Selling him helps today's calculation, while potentially weakening the team responsible for tomorrow's revenue. Newcastle face the same loop. Their Saudi-backed ownership can provide support, but owner wealth does not create permission to load the squad with costs. Newcastle need commercial growth, Champions League income, matchday revenue, and profitable player trading. Those take time or depend on results. Better players improve the chance of reaching Europe. Buying them becomes harder until the European revenue already exists. It resembles a bank promising to finance your successful business once you prove you no longer need the money. Inflated sponsorship is no easy shortcut because associated party deals can be tested against fair market value. Newcastle's ownership provides patience and capital without converting automatically into Manchester United's spending capacity. Villa and Newcastle must sell well, replace intelligently, and grow gradually. The Big Six use the same techniques on larger commercial foundations and often possess academy graduates whose sales create strong profit because their transfer book value is minimal. This becomes particularly valuable when a club needs room quickly. An academy sale can add almost the entire fee as profit, while buying an established replacement places only 1 year's amortization into that season's numerator. Bigger academies therefore function as financial reserves as well as talent systems. Revenue history and player inventory compound together. The established club can survive an expensive mistake because another income stream keeps the ratio manageable. A challenger may have to sell the player who actually worked. There is a serious argument for these rules. Owners can leave long before supporters do, and spending without reference to recurring income may produce a title challenge, followed by debt or a desperate sale. SCR makes squad costs respond to the economic size of the club and monitors compliance during the season. Owners retain freedom to finance stadiums and training facilities that can increase future revenue. Clubs outside Europe also receive an 85% ceiling, while UEFA teams operate at 70%. And the multi-year allowance offers some room to spend ahead. The hierarchy is not frozen. Newcastle and Villa have reached the Champions League, while supposed permanent Big Six clubs have missed Europe. Excellent recruitment can outperform a larger budget, as every supporter remembers immediately before demanding 3 expensive sign-ins. Yet the rule protects incumbency without naming any club. A percentage preserves the gap between large and small revenue bases. A challenger can increase its allowance through success, but success is exactly what the allowance makes harder to fund quickly. The Premier League considered top-to-bottom anchoring, linking spending to the income of a lower-earning club, and failed to secure enough support. A hard cap or stronger revenue sharing could compress the gap, although English clubs would object that Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and other European rivals face different conditions. Looser controls would give owners freedom, while exposing clubs to more risk. Does FFP protect the Big Six then? The new version protects high-revenue clubs, and the Big Six own most of the highest-revenue businesses. Stadiums, global audiences, and historic success are converted by SCR into larger legal squad budgets. Treating the system as a conspiracy ignores the need to prevent financial distress. Calling it competitively neutral ignores basic multiplication. Villa selling Rodgers and Newcastle losing an elite midfield do not prove that one rule forced every deal, but they show what life near the ceiling can demand. Challengers may grow slowly and profitably, often by selling somebody a richer club wants. The door remains open. It happens to be much wider from the inside. That's it.
That's all I have.
Bye-bye.